Right, some big breaking news for you now from the United States. The State Department announced Tuesday it was barring 5 Europeans, Tuesday being today, of course. It announced 5 Europeans it accused of leading efforts to pressure US tech firms to censor or suppress American viewpoints. Secretary of State Marco Rubio didn't name those he said fell foul of new visa policies announced in May to restrict the entry of foreigners deemed responsible for the censorship of protected speech in the US. He identified them only as radical activists and who weaponised non-governmental organisations. Long story short, the US has banned 5 people for not complying with their vision of America. And we've got some breaking news now. The names are here. Where are they? They include the likes of... so, first of all, they were identified by Sarah Rogers, who is the US Undersecretary of State for Public Diplomacy, in a series of posts on social media. They include the former European Union Commissioner and leaders of organisations that address so-called digital hate. So the 5 named are Imran Ahmed, who is the Chief Executive of the Centre for Countering Digital Hate, Josephine Ballon and Anna-Lena von Holdenberg, who are the leaders of Hate Aid. A German organisation is Hate Aid. The former EU Commissioner Thierry Breton, who was responsible for digital affairs, and Claire Melford, who runs the Global Disinformation Index. Under the US Immigration and Nationality Act, those targeted will generally be barred from entering the US, and some may face removal proceedings if they're already in the country. I could think of some other organisations with the word hate in them who could be banned, but I won't get into that. So, yeah, the Undersecretary Sarah posted that on her X post today. She said, today the United States issued sanctions reinforcing the red line I invoked on GBNews. So she's name-dropped GBNews. The red line she invoked on GBNews, namely extraterritorial censorship of Americans. Today's sanctions target the censorship NGO ecosystem. Here's what Sarah Rogers originally told GBNews some weeks ago.
It's guided and unfortunate to apply that law in Britain, but applying that law extraterritorially, which means applying it to speech that has nothing to do with Britain, does not occur in Britain, is on American platforms by American users on American political issues, purporting to censor Americans in America is a deal breaker. It is a non-starter. It is a red line. And that's what Ofcom has tried to do with the Online Safety Act, and that's one reason the American government is concerned.
So, Steve N. Allen, she's talking there about the Online Safety Act, Labour's, well, it's the Tories' brainchild, but Labour's Online Safety Act, and Ofcom as well, and the infringement of, stepping on American toes.
Your personal data could be exposed right now without you even knowing it. And if you want it removed, use incogni.com/GBnews in the description now and get 60% off an annual plan on us. Incogni reach out to the data brokers on your behalf and request that your information be deleted from their databases. And they'll keep sending removal requests to make sure your data stays gone. Sometimes your information ends up on strange, obscure websites that automated tools just can't reach. And that's why Incogni just launched their unlimited plan with a feature called custom removals. With this, you can submit any link where your personal information appears, literally paste in the URL, and their privacy team will investigate and work to get it removed. And getting started is super easy. Hit the link in the description, create an Incogni account, and tell them whose data you want removed. Grant them permission to work on your behalf, and then all you've got to do is sit back and relax. They'll keep you updated along the way. Incogni is totally risk-free for 30 days. If you try it, it's not for you, you'll get a full refund. So take back control of your personal data today with Incogni. Use our code GBNews at checkout via the link in the description, and you'll get 60% off an annual plan.
Yeah, it still feels like no one's really caught up with what the internet is and how this will... you can't police it in that way. The internet is just one big thing across the world. So if you try and bring in a rule in one country, you either need to have some sort of Chinese system where you can then ban certain things from the UK's...
Yes, please. Govern me harder, Daddy.
Oh, that's... more people who want an eye whether you have to say that. Or you just have to realise that the only way that it can work as an ecosystem is just to have free speech on it, the internet. Otherwise, you're going to have this bizarre system where you think you can control another country's internet or try and have that as a secondary effect, which, of course, they won't want, and then you end up with this. this. So yeah, I think it's unworkable until they just relax and just enjoy the internet.
Just chill out.
Relax and enjoy the internet.
Enjoy the World Wide Web.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
What's not to love about that?
This actually exposes, as Sarah Rogers said there in her X post today, this exposes the NGO scam, and I think NGOs are going to become a big thing in the coming years.
Look, the Online Safety Act has been a disaster from the beginning. The Free Speech Union and other free speech campaigners have been warning for a very long time that they were going to have effects where illegal speech would be, because of how broad it was, harmful content, legal but harmful content, that phrase. And we saw legal things being censored, Katie Lamb's speech in the House of Commons being censored, videos of arrests, a story about Richard the Lionheart, even Spiked Online's documentary about freedom of speech being censored. I mean, it's just extraordinary. We have politicians in the House of Commons saying, oh, we're worried about interference of the US, yet here we are interfering with Americans' freedom of speech. And, good for them for putting their foot down.
Jonathan, another great thing this Trump administration's done.
I mean, I'm amazed that someone who works the Free Speech Union is applauding sort of visa bans for people for things that they've said, which is effectively what's happened.
It's not about what they've said, it's about what they've done.
Well, it's also about things that they believe and things that they are saying.
But this is the issue. So freedom of speech is fine as long as your freedom of speech doesn't turn into action to prohibit other people's rights.
Look, stopping people's right to enter a country is one of the most basic acts of censorship
or
that you can do. Well, I'm not saying that. Of course, they're allowed to do it. I'm saying this is a country, a government, an administration in the United States that says they're all about free speech. They're free speech absolutists, and then they're literally banning people for things that they're saying. I'm sorry, but it's like you can tolerate. I tolerate people. I tolerate intolerant people because that's what tolerance is.
Yeah, but if you tolerate too much,
just own it. They can. I'm saying they can do whatever they like. They should own it, though.
Just jumping in and out. Tolerating intolerant people is a passive act, whereas saying people have the right to control other people's rights, they are actively controlling rights.
And look, the other thing to say about this is that Thierry Breton, for example, this is a really serious thing. I mean, he was, I think he had a meeting with Elon Musk a year or two ago when he was EU commissioner responsible for. Well, fine, but this is not about trying to curb the freedom of speech in the United States. It's about how it is applied in Europe, in the EU, because obviously a lot of these tech companies are based in the United States, obviously, but they go far beyond the United States. The United States is responsible for what happens inside the US, and the EU is responsible for what happens in the EU. There has to be a way of squaring that. So saying that you're banning some guy from coming to the United States, what does that possibly
Is it not the equivalent of just blocking somebody on X? People say, Ben Leo believes in free speech, he's blocked me.
Why shouldn't he be allowed to come? Of course he should be allowed to come to the United States.
That's just exercising my right and America's right not to have to listen to your free speech.
It's basically banning your political opponents from the country. I think that's wrong.
OK. And also, with the EU, why should the EU go around slapping tens of millions of dollars of fines on X and Elon Musk for stupid things, inane things, such as having a blue checkmark verification system?
Well, because I think that comes from, I can't remember if that's about the competition law in the EU. Obviously, though, the EU is very, very active in trying to protect EU citizens.
From free speech?
No, not from free speech. Not from free speech.